Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will take a slow and gentle journey far back in time, to the ancient world of Rome. Imagine, if you will, a quiet evening along the Mediterranean coast. The air is warm and soft, carrying the distant sounds of water flowing through a calm river. Small lamps flicker beside narrow pathways, and the faint glow of firelight drifts upward into the darkening sky. This peaceful place, this cluster of hills and villages, will one day become Rome, one of the most influential civilizations in human history. But in the beginning, Rome was something far more modest. Long before grand temples, marble statues, and enormous arenas appeared across the landscape, the area beside the Tiber River was simply a collection of small settlements. To understand how Rome began, we must travel back more than 27 centuries, to a time when the Italian peninsula looked very different from today. Much of the land was covered in forests and open countryside. Small communities were scattered across the hills and valleys. These people lived close to the land, working as farmers, shepherds, and traders. They spoke early forms of the Latin language and built simple homes using wood, clay, and straw. Life moved slowly, guided by the rhythm of the seasons. Spring meant planting crops. Autumn meant harvest. Winter offered a quieter time for repair, storytelling, and rest. According to one of Rome's most famous legends, the story of the city begins with two brothers, Romulus and Remus. Their tale was told for centuries among the Romans, becoming one of the most beloved stories of their origins. As the legend goes, the twins were born into a royal family. Their mother was a princess, and their father was believed to be Mars, the Roman god of war. But their birth created fear for a powerful king who believed the children might one day challenge his rule, so he ordered that the infants be abandoned beside the Tiber River. Yet fate had other plans. The river carried the small basket that held the twins gently downstream until it came to rest along the riverbank. There, according to the legend, an unexpected guardian appeared, a she-wolf. The animal discovered the crying infants and carried them into her den. For a time, she protected them and cared for them as if they were her own young. Eventually, a shepherd discovered the children and brought them home, raising them alongside his own family. As the years passed, Romulus and Remus grew into strong and capable young men. They became skilled hunters and natural leaders. When they learned the truth about their royal origins, the brothers decided to build a new city. They chose a place beside the Tiber River, where several hills rose above the surrounding land. The location was fertile, defensible, and well suited for settlement. But as the story goes, the brothers soon began to disagree about exactly where the new city should be built. Their argument grew heated, and in the tragic end of the legend, Romulus killed his brother, Remus. Romulus then continued the work alone, founding the city and naming it after himself, Rome. Roman historians traditionally gave the date of this event as the year 753 BCE. Today, historians believe that Rome most likely formed more gradually. Rather than a single dramatic moment, the city probably grew slowly as several small farming villages merged together over time. Still, the story of Romulus and Remus remained deeply important to Roman identity. The legend reminded the Romans that their city had powerful beginnings, guided by fate, struggle, and determination. In its earlier centuries, Rome looked very different from the magnificent imperial city many people imagine today. Instead of towering stone structures and wide paved streets, early Rome resembled a group of connected villages scattered across several hills. Families lived in modest homes built from wood and clay. Roofs were often made of straw or simple tiles. Smoke from cooking fires drifted softly into the air during the evening hours. Most Romans worked on the land. Farming was the heart of daily life. Fields surrounding the settlement produced wheat, barley, olives, and grapes. Olive oil became one of the most valuable products in Roman society. It was used for cooking, lighting lamps, caring for the skin, and even for certain forms of medicine. Farmers rose early each morning to tend their crops and animals. Goats, sheep, and cattle grazed across nearby hillsides. Life followed a steady rhythm shaped by nature and hard work. Yet Rome possessed one advantage that would slowly help it grow stronger than many nearby settlements: its location. The city stood beside the Tiber River, an important natural route for trade and travel. Boats carrying goods such as grain, pottery, salt, and cloth could move along the river, stopping at settlements along the way. Rome also sat near a shallow crossing point in the river. This crossing made it a convenient meeting place for travelers moving across the region. Over time, traders began stopping there more frequently. Markets slowly formed, bringing together farmers, craftsmen, and merchants. Paths connecting homes gradually became roads. Open spaces became gathering places. Small religious shrines appeared on the hillsides. Little by little, the scattered villages began to merge into a larger community. One low valley between several hills slowly became the center of public life. In later centuries, this space would become famous as the Roman Forum. But in the earliest days, it was simply a marketplace where people met to trade goods, exchange news, and discuss local matters. If you had walked through Rome during this early period, the sounds would have been gentle and familiar. Wooden carts creaking along dirt paths, farm animals calling from nearby fields, children running through narrow streets, craftsmen shaping tools from iron, wood, and clay. Even in these early centuries, Roman society had a clear social structure. At the top were wealthy families known as patricians. These families believed they descended from the earliest founders of the city and held much of the political power. Below them were the plebeians. Plebeians made up the majority of the population. They were farmers, craftsmen, traders, and laborers who supported the growing city through their work. Although plebeians originally had fewer political rights, they were essential to the strength of Roman society. Family life formed the center of Roman culture. The head of the household was usually the father, known as the paterfamilias. He held legal authority over family decisions and responsibilities. Yet Roman homes were lively places. Often several generations lived together under one roof: parents, children, grandparents, and sometimes servants. Meals were simple but comforting. Bread, olives, vegetables, fruit, and cheese were common foods. Occasionally, fish or meat might appear on the table. Wine was a regular drink, though it was usually mixed with water. In the evenings, families gathered to share food and conversation. Soft lamplight filled the rooms while stories were told and plans were made for the coming day. At the same time, religion played an important role in everyday life. The Romans believed many gods influenced the world around them. Jupiter ruled the sky and thunder. Mars represented war and strength. Venus symbolized love and beauty. Within each home, families also honored small protective spirits known as lares. These household spirits were believed to guard the family and ensure good fortune. Small shrines inside Roman homes allowed people to offer prayers and gifts to these invisible guardians. Gradually, over many generations, Rome continued to grow. Villages expanded, roads connected communities, temples appeared on the hills, trade increased along the river. What began as a quiet cluster of settlements slowly transformed into a true city. Yet even during this early period, one important quality already defined the Roman people. They were practical, organized, and remarkably skilled at building systems that worked together. Communities, traditions, and institutions that supported stability. These early foundations would eventually support a civilization that stretched across vast distances. But for now, Rome was still young, a peaceful town resting among its 7 hills, where farmers, traders, and families lived simple lives beside the flowing waters of the Tiber. And as evening settles gently over the ancient landscape, the sounds of the city begin to soften. Oil lamps glow quietly in windows. Footsteps fade along narrow streets. And the slow river continues its silent journey toward the distant sea. In the next part of our journey, we will explore the daily life of the Romans more closely, discovering their homes, food, bathhouses, and entertainment, and the remarkable systems that helped Rome grow into a powerful civilization. But for now, allow the quiet world of early Rome to rest peacefully in your imagination. Good evening once again. As our quiet journey through ancient Rome continues, imagine the city slowly waking beneath the gentle light of morning. The sun rises above the rolling hills of central Italy, casting warm gold across rooftops and narrow stone streets. A soft breeze moves through the alleys, carrying the smell of bread baking in clay ovens. Rome is no longer just a small settlement. It is becoming a busy and growing city. Markets open early in the day. Merchants carefully arrange their goods on wooden tables. Farmers arrive from nearby countryside carrying baskets of olives, vegetables, and fresh fruit. The city begins to hum with the quiet rhythm of daily life. One of the most important foods in Rome was bread. Bakeries were common throughout the city. Large stone mills ground wheat into flour, and bakers used wood-fired ovens to produce loaves of many shapes and sizes. For many Romans, bread formed the center of every meal. Alongside bread came other simple foods that were both nourishing and easy to prepare. Olives were extremely common. They could be eaten whole, crushed into oil, or mixed into many dishes. Cheese made from goat or sheep milk was widely enjoyed. Vegetables such as cabbage, onions, beans, and lentils often simmer together in warm stews. Fruit was also an important part of Roman diets. Figs, apples, grapes, and pears appeared regularly at the table when they were in season. Wine was perhaps the most famous Roman drink. However, Romans almost always mixed their wine with water. Drinking pure wine was considered unusual and sometimes even uncivilized. Meals were more than just nourishment. They were social moments. Families gathered together, sharing food while discussing the events of the day. In wealthy households, dinner could become a long and relaxed gathering filled with conversation and storytelling. But most Romans lived fairly modest lives. Housing in Rome reflected the differences between rich and poor. Many ordinary people lived in crowded apartment buildings known as insulae. These buildings could rise several stories high and hold many families. Rooms were often small and simple. Some apartments had very little furniture and only a narrow window to allow light inside. Wealthier Romans, however, lived in homes called domus. A Roman domus was usually built around a central, open courtyard known as the atrium. Rainwater falling through an opening in the roof collected in a shallow pool in the center. This water could then be used by the household. Rooms opened around the atrium, creating a quiet and private space inside the home. Walls were sometimes decorated with colorful paintings, showing landscapes, gardens, or scenes from mythology. Floors might display mosaics made from thousands of tiny colored stones. During the quiet hours of the afternoon, sunlight would gently spill into the courtyard, creating a calm and peaceful atmosphere. Yet one of the most beloved places in Roman society was not the home at all. It was the bathhouse. Public bathhouses, known as thermae, were central gathering places where people came to relax, talk, and spend time with friends. Bathing in Rome was not simply about cleanliness, it was a daily ritual. Visitors would move through several different rooms, each designed for a different temperature. First came the tepidarium, a comfortably warm chamber where the body slowly adjusted to the heat. Next was the caldarium, a hot room filled with steam and heated pools. Finally, bathers could cool themselves in the frigidarium, which contained refreshing cold water. Many bath complexes also included gardens, exercise areas, libraries, and spaces for conversation. People might spend several hours there, talking quietly and enjoying the warmth of the baths. What made these bathhouses even more impressive was the technology that heated them. The Romans developed a clever system called the hypercaust. Hot air from a furnace flowed beneath the floors and inside hollow walls, warming entire buildings from below. This allowed bathhouses to remain comfortably warm even during colder seasons. Roman engineering was truly remarkable, and this same spirit of innovation appeared throughout the city. Entertainment also played an important role in Roman life. The Romans enjoyed large public spectacles that brought people together in enormous crowds. One of the most famous arenas in Roman history would eventually become the Colosseum, though it was built centuries after the early days of the city. Even before that time, however, Romans gathered to watch races, games, and performances. Chariot racing was one of the most exciting sports in the ancient world. These races were held in massive arenas called circuses. The largest of them, the Circus Maximus, could hold tens of thousands of spectators. Teams of horses pulled lightweight chariots around long oval tracks at tremendous speed. The crowd cheered loudly as racers navigated sharp corners and tried to outpace their rivals. Another type of public spectacle involved gladiators. Gladiators were trained fighters who battled inside arenas before large audiences. Some faced other gladiators, while others confronted wild animals brought from distant regions. Although these contests could be dangerous, many gladiators became admired figures known for courage and skill. To Roman spectators, these contests symbolized strength, discipline, and bravery. Yet entertainment was not limited to arenas. Theatre was also popular. Actors performed comedies, tragedies, and musical shows on outdoor stages. They often wore masks that allowed the audience to easily recognize different characters and emotions. These performances brought laughter and excitement to large crowds gathered beneath the open sky. As the day slowly moved toward evening, the energy of the city gradually softened. Market stalls began to close. Merchants carefully counted their coins before packing away their goods. Families returned home along narrow streets illuminated by small oil lamps. Dinner was often the most important meal of the day. In wealthy households, guests might recline on couches, while servants served several courses of food. In simpler homes, families gathered around small tables, sharing modest meals and warm conversation. Stories were exchanged, plans were made, and the quiet rhythm of family life filled the rooms. Outside, the city slowly settled into night. Footsteps echoed along stone roads, torches flickered along the streets, and above the rooftops, the stars began to appear, one by one, across the Roman sky. But while everyday life in Rome was filled with food, family, and entertainment, the city's growing strength came from something deeper: organization. The Romans were masters at building systems that worked together. One of the most powerful of these systems was the Roman army. Roman soldiers, known as legionaries, were famous for their discipline and training. Each soldier carried a standard set of equipment: a strong shield, a short sword called a gladius, a throwing spear known as a pilum, and protective armor. But the true strength of the Roman army came from teamwork. Legionaries trained to fight in tight formations, with shields overlapping. Moving together like a single unit, they could advance steadily against enemies. Roman soldiers were also skilled builders. Wherever they traveled, they constructed camps, bridges, walls, and roads. At the end of each day's march, soldiers often built fortified camps arranged in neat and organized patterns. This careful planning allowed Roman armies to move efficiently and remain protected. Perhaps the greatest achievement of Roman engineering was their road system. The Romans believed that strong roads connected and strengthened their territories. Engineers carefully prepared deep foundations using layers of stone, gravel, and sand. The road surface was often paved with large, flat stones that created a durable path. Many roads were slightly curved, so rainwater could drain away from the center. Some roads crossed mountains, valleys, and rivers, supported by strong bridges and carefully carved pathways. Over time, thousands of miles of roads connected cities across the Roman world. A famous Roman saying declared, "All roads lead to Rome." And in many ways, it was true. These roads allowed armies, merchants, travelers, and messengers to move across vast distances. Communication became faster, trade expanded, and Roman influence spread far beyond Italy. Along the roads, small rest stations allowed travelers to eat, sleep, and change horses. This network helped Rome govern a growing territory with remarkable efficiency. Roman law also played a vital role in maintaining order. One of the earliest legal foundations was a set of written rules known as the 12 Tables. Before these laws were recorded, many ordinary citizens feared that powerful leaders could interpret rules however they wished. By writing laws down and displaying them publicly, the Romans created a system where citizens could understand the rules that governed their society. These laws covered many aspects of daily life: property ownership, family relationships, debts, and legal disputes. Although the rules were sometimes strict, they established a sense of fairness and structure within Roman society. Over time, Roman law grew more complex and influential. Legal ideas developed in Rome would later shape many legal systems across Europe and beyond. Even today, echoes of Roman law still exist in modern courts. As centuries passed, Rome expanded far beyond its humble beginnings beside the Tiber River. Roman culture spread across the Mediterranean world. Cities were founded, trade flourished, and the Latin language spread throughout many regions. Over time, Latin evolved into several modern languages, including Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese, and Romanian. Roman architecture also left a lasting mark. Aqueducts carried fresh water into cities, bridges spanned wide rivers, temples and public buildings displayed graceful arches and strong stone domes. Some Roman structures still stand today, quietly reminding us of the remarkable civilization that built them. But Rome's greatest legacy may not be its buildings or roads. It may be its ideas. Ideas about law, ideas about citizenship, ideas about governance and responsibility. These ideas continue to influence societies long after the Roman Empire itself faded. And so, as our journey gently comes to an end tonight, imagine the ancient city once more. The hills of Rome resting beneath a calm and silent sky. Oil lamps glowing softly along quiet streets. Water flowing slowly through fountains and channels. And beyond the city walls, long Roman roads stretching into the darkness of the ancient world. Let that peaceful image remain in your mind as the story of ancient Rome slowly drifts into the quiet of night.